So what do you guys think of when I say the word glory or glorious? There might have been a couple things that came to your mind when I said the word glory or glorious, but probably something very special came to your mind. But today we're going to be talking about when 3 of Jesus' disciples got to see a glimpse of his glory. So we're going to be talking about the Transfiguration, and Jesus took 3 people with him, 3 of his disciples, 3 from his inner circle. That was James, Peter, and John. So Jesus, he takes them up on a high mountain, and this is where the event takes place, and they get to see this all unfold, this amazing event. So once they were up on the mountain, Jesus transfigured in front of the 3 men, right? And this transfigured is the same word that we would translate to English as metamorphosis. And I'm sure that you've heard about that, right? When we think of metamorphosis, we think of a butterfly coming out of its cocoon, changing its outward appearance. And that is exactly what Jesus did. This is the only time in Jesus' ministry on earth that he showed his glory in this way. And for James, Peter, and John, this validated that he was indeed the Son of God. You see, this event, this transfiguration of Jesus, it revealed his glory. And so we worship Jesus as the glorious Son of God. And so here in this moment, Moses and Elijah appear and they begin to talk with Jesus. Now here's something that's really amazing that I want you to see. Moses and Elijah, their life on earth had already ended. And so this explains, this tells us, this shows us that life on earth isn't everything and it's not all. And Jesus tells us that, God tells us that in his word, and we understand that. But we see it here play out in this moment. So a cloud swells over and a voice from heaven says, "This is my beloved Son. Now trust in him." Now Peter, James, and John, they were scared. They were fearful. And so they put their faces to the ground. But Jesus, he tells them to rise. And when they rise, they notice that Elijah and Moses had gone. So we see the Father affirm Jesus as his Son, and we are called to trust and obey the words and the word of the Lord. And so as we continue in verse 9, we see that Jesus tells them, the 3, he says, "Y'all, listen, don't tell anybody about this until I've risen from the dead." So the reason being was that if word got around, people started hearing about what had happened, this might have led to a revolt, and they would have wanted Jesus to be king. They would have wanted Jesus to be in power. And Jesus' whole mission, his whole reason was to suffer to save us. But I want us to think for a second, if we were in that position, how hard would it have been to say, "Hey, don't tell anybody because, they might want me as king. They might want to, make my life here easier. They might actually like me." He says, "No, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Wait till after I resurrect. After I come back from the dead. And then you can tell them what happened. But I have to accomplish what the Father has sent me down here for." And so these 3, they've got a question, because their prophecy that they were taught was that Elijah would be coming back to turn people back to God. And so Jesus, he explains. And he says, now, y'all, we're probably thinking the literal Elijah coming back, but it actually is talking about John the Baptist in manners like Elijah he would be turning people back to God. And so we see this over and over again with each fulfillment of prophecy in the Bible. And we can see that God's word is true and that it will come to pass. So this is huge. And if you aren't paying attention, I want you to pay attention right here and listen to me. God is never caught off guard. There is not a time that God does not know what is happening. And so there's never a time that we ever need to say, God, do you know what you're doing? Even though what may be happening around us, we might be thinking, whoa, what is going on right now? This is crazy. I mean, what do you think Joseph was thinking when he got shoved into the pit and then sold? He's thinking, I don't know what's happening, but I know that God knows what's going on. See, Jesus knew that he would suffer, that he would die, and that he would be resurrected, that he would rise again. And so we can rest and know that God is always in control, and we can know that his timing is always best for our lives. Sometimes it's hard for us. Sometimes we want things to happen in our timing. But God is in control, and God knows what's best for us.